Hey everybody, I'm Jesse Jace, and this is the commentary version of my walking video, walking from Shinbashi to Kanda. I'm doing this and uploading this version in addition to the version with no commentary to find out what people think, and I kind of want to decide whether or not these videos should have commentary on them. I'm also going to be experimenting with how I make the videos, not just related to the post-production, but I might try to do some things besides walking, maybe some kickboard or maybe some cycling. Anyway, we're starting this video in Shinbashi. Shinbashi is the town that everyone associates with old men in Tokyo. Old businessmen. You see a lot of guys in suits. This was on a Friday, so around lunchtime, everyone's on lunch break. And Shinbashi, the streets immediately surrounding the station are a little bit seedy, like this one that I'm walking on now. You can see a lot of pachinko and karaoke and little bars. And if I'm not mistaken, there's also a couple of somewhat suspicious looking businesses. Places, places you wouldn't bring your family, let's just say. I recorded this using my old GoPro and a gimbal that I just got for Christmas. It's the Slick GoPro gimbal. I've got it mounted to my chest, so I'm walking around with this big thing on my chest like some kind of dorky cyborg. No one really seemed to notice, though. Like, no one really looked twice at it. So we're walking towards Hibiya Street. This street we're on doesn't have a name. The camera turned because I was looking behind me to see if any cars were coming. I've lived in Tokyo and the immediately surrounding area for a long time, since 2003. And one of the reasons I'm making this video is I remember how I felt about moving to Tokyo before I moved. I was actually pretty intimidated by it, because until that point I hadn't lived in a city bigger than Minneapolis, and I hadn't visited a city bigger than Chicago? Yeah, Chicago. So the idea of moving to Tokyo, which was, one of the biggest cities in the world, was on some level kind of scary. But what I found out was that Tokyo is really nice and really easy to live in and really safe. And Tokyo does have a reputation for being crowded, but what people don't always think about is that as crowded as it is also vast and really sprawling. Like, Tokyo is huge. It's big enough that saying Central Tokyo actually has very little meaning. Like, what is Central Tokyo? Central Tokyo, some people consider the entire 23 wards Central Tokyo, which is a huge area. Some people would say, okay, no, just the area immediately surrounding and within the Yamanote line. Even that's a huge area. So, but if, by either of those standards, this place I'm walking is part of Central Tokyo, and I'd say it's kind of on the eastern, maybe southeast corner of what most people would consider Central Tokyo. If we treat the Yamanote line as a clock face, which it's not round, it's actually really long north to south, but if we treat it like a clock face, then we're currently walking around the 4 o'clock position. The audio for this video was recorded on my phone. You can't tell. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. You can't tell, but it was very windy on this day. There's a couple times when you'll see leaves blowing. For the most part, I don't think you can hear the wind. And that's because I stuffed my phone into a sock, an actual sock, and then put it microphone facing out in my jacket pocket. And that actually did a pretty good job of muting the wind. If you're listening to this with headphones, you can hear a little bit of low end caused by the wind. But otherwise, I'm pretty pleased with how it sounds. doing the voiceover for this on Saturday the 28th. I'm thinking about going out tomorrow, Sunday, and recording another video like this, but maybe on my kickboard. Just to try it out and see how it looks. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out in terms of smoothness, but there is a little bit of bob. Like my steps, you can feel them a little bit, especially on objects in the immediate foreground. On my left is Hibiya Park, and we're going to enter Hibiya Park a little bit up ahead here. It's a nice park, a pretty big city park, and it's one of those parks where you can be surrounded by green but you can see the city skyline not very far away. I think we're going to enter here. Yeah, here's Hibiya Park, which is immediately south of the Imperial Residence. We're actually not going to pass close to the Imperial Residence in this video. It's nothing to see, really. Also, speaking of things that are nothing to see, this pond wasn't looking particularly pretty on this particular day, but there it is. coming up on a marker that marks the place where Date Masamune died. It's behind me in this shot, but Date Masamune was a shogun from Sendai, and you've probably seen him. He's always depicted with a helmet with a big crescent on it. Usually he's on horseback, and he's got an eye patch. I don't know what he did or why he's famous, but I do know that he's in a lot of anime and manga and games. And he died about 20 meters behind where I'm walking now. We're crossing Hibiya Street to the southeast now, and get used to looking at the back of this guy because we're going to be behind him for a while. And we're turning onto a street called Harumi Street. Harumi Street connects Hibiya to Yurakucho and then to Ginza, and that's where we're going next. You can see the train tracks up ahead, the green bridge there. And those are the JR train tracks, including, I think, Shinkansen tracks, leading from Yurakucho Station, which is about 2 blocks to the left from where I am right now. We're gonna keep going under the train tracks. We're still behind that guy. And as we exit Yurakucho, we end up in Ginza, which I think some people outside of Japan call it the Ginza. Nobody calls it that in Japan. Japanese doesn't have the. doesn't have that kind of word. It doesn't have articles like and the. Ginza is called Ginza because it was originally the home of a mint, silver mint. Silver is gin in Japanese. Ginza is a silver mint. And I think it was I think the whole town of Ginza was destroyed by fire, like in the 1800s probably. And after that it was rebuilt, and the time in which it was rebuilt was the Meiji period, the Meiji Restoration, a time period in which Japan was under a really strong Western influence. And the result of that, as you're about to see, is a really Western looking neighborhood. The buildings in Ginza show a lot of Western influence in the architecture. Not only that, but the planning, just the city planning of Ginza is really Western style too. You're going to see some of the widest sidewalks anywhere in Japan here in Ginza. Just look at these luxuriously big sidewalks. A lot of streets in Japan don't have any sidewalk. Traditionally, Ginza has been not very popular among tourists. I say traditionally, I'm talking like a long time ago, because tourists who came to Japan wanted to see Japanese looking places, and Ginza is not Japanese looking. But now it does attract a lot of tourists, because what Ginza does have is a lot of designer retailers. A couple times in this video you've seen a yellow bus pass by with the words Hato Bus in red letters on the side. Hato Bus is a tour bus company, and the tours that they offer are very popular among senior citizens. My wife and I took a couple of Hato Bus tours a few years ago, and this is back when we were maybe in our mid-30s, and we were easily the youngest people on the whole bus. Crossing the street diagonally on purpose to show you somewhat what it's like to cross a street diagonally. These scramble crossings where you can cross from corner to corner, like crossways, they shouldn't work in a city this crowded. Like, people should be bumping into each other, but you get good at it. Throughout the entire Ginza portion of this video, you're going to see entrances for Ginza Station. Here's one on my right here. And that's because Ginza is a subway-only station, but it's huge. It's got, I think, about 30 exits scattered throughout the neighborhood. as far as stations go that are subway only, Ginza is probably one of the biggest. I don't know how it ranks, but it is very big, and it is confusing when you're in it. We're gonna turn left here, and we're going north on Chuo Street. Chuo means central. This is a pretty major road in Tokyo. And we're gonna stay on this road for most of the rest of this video. Just keep on following it north, because this road's gonna take us out of Ginza into Kyobashi, and then Nihonbashi, and then Kanda, which is our destination. You can hear a Salvation Army guy playing a trombone on the other side of the street to my right. Earlier I mentioned that Shinbashi is a town for old men, and so this is Ginza, which is a town for fancy ladies. You know, every neighborhood in Tokyo has a personality, and connected with that personality is a kind of clientele, a kind of people that you tend to see in that town. You see a lot of well-dressed men and women, actually, but I feel like a lot of the retail destinations in Ginza are geared towards well-to-do ladies. Like Bulgari across the road there with the scary snake building. We're entering an area called Kyobashi, which is the station that is the midpoint of the Ginza line. Ginza's one station away, but I feel like they chose the name Ginza for the Ginza line because that sounds glamorous. Kyobashi line, not that great, not that attractive sounding. So, you know, good job with the branding there.
からドイツ。
About 2 blocks to the left from this corner we're approaching is the Yaesu entrance of Tokyo Station. And if you went through Tokyo Station further west, that's where this road that we're crossing would run right to the Imperial Residence. Like I said, you can't really see the Imperial Residence from the street. It's surrounded by a moat and then a wall, so I didn't bother approaching it for this video. And anyway, wouldn't you rather look at this giant metal giraffe across the street? That's more interesting. We're now in a town called Nihonbashi, which is named after a bridge. The name of the bridge is Japan Bridge, Nihonbashi. And this bridge was originally made of wood, but now it's made of iron and concrete, I think in response to it being destroyed by fire. Or in World War II? I don't know, actually. Might have been bombed in World War II. That bridge is straight ahead. We're almost there. The bridge goes over a river, which is also apparently named after the bridge. It's the Nihonbashi River, which is weird. And I call it a river, but keep in mind that in most parts of Tokyo, a river is like a canal, a concrete ditch. Before I cross the bridge, I'll get a shot of the river, and you can see what I'm talking about. It's a canal. and it's got an expressway driving over the top of it. But the bridge itself is pretty cool. You can see some bronze statues. Here's one like a Komainu here on the left, and in the middle is the coolest one, which is a dragon. I think I kind of get a shot of it here, but I was still getting acquainted with how to get things in frame while the camera's mounted to my chest. Here's the dragon. In this part of Tokyo, there are a lot of big department stores, including a lot of historic, very old department stores. When I say old, I mean the companies are old. A lot of the biggest department stores in Japan were started in the 19th century. And this is the oldest one that I know of. This is the main location of Mitsukoshi, which is even older. I believe the company, which began as a kimono company, was started in the 1600s. I think it had a different name at the time, but it exists today as Mitsukoshi Department Store. Again, I don't shop at Mitsukoshi Department Store. It's really spendy. By and large, Japanese department stores are not the best place to buy anything that you want to buy. They're really upscale. だからそのね。
一個あるといいよね。
全然違う。
뭐 있죠?
ないと、その役割を果たさないとなると、絶対必要なものになるじゃん。その理由にさ、そう、僕はするか。
We're almost to Kanda, but remember before when I talked about the character changing when you turn a corner? Well, get ready, because we're going to turn this corner, and all of a sudden, what happened? Where's all the nice Western buildings? And the fancy upscale retailers? No, suddenly we turn a corner and now we're in Japan again. And again, we're in a little bit of a seedy alley. I think this is like a weird... No, this is a bar on my left and on my right. And there's a weird sound because I think my phone was rubbing against my pocket at this point. When I say alleys like this are seedy, I'm talking about sexy cat. Like, I don't know what that is, but again, it looks like a place you wouldn't take your family. And we're gonna turn onto Nichigin Street, and we're almost to Kanda Station. Alright, so please let me know with a comment or something to tell me what you prefer. Like, do you like this video with the commentary on it? Do you prefer it with the commentary off and just the sound of the streets? I want to know. And what you tell me will shape future videos in this genre. Thank you everybody for watching. This has been Shinbashi Kanda on foot. I'm Jesse Jace. Please like and subscribe. See you later.